how did you approach writing such a serious topic and keeping it lively enough where it didn't feel like a documentary?
Well, so we were in pandemic when we were writing it, and it was scary, as you remember, and we had no idea what was happening, and we got through it by making jokes, by also crying, but you know, the sort of human condition is such that you're always going to look for hope, I believe. And so the other thing that we always kept in mind is that the Franks and the people in the annex didn't know the end. I think they believed they would survive. They had survived for 2 years. So we talked about that a lot. We can't play the end. When we read the diary, we get so caught up in the story that I find myself saying, you know, maybe it's going to end differently this time. And I wanted, you know, and that's just because you cannot believe this vibrant, incredible girl didn't survive. So it was important that we didn't play the end. And so during the time they were up in the annex, they had hope.
I think the other thing is that I know that my grandmother was a hilarious person. Now, I didn't get to know her until she was in her 60s, but I'm sure when she was 20, she was hilarious as well. And Meep had that same kind of effervescent personality in these interviews that you see of her when she's an old woman. So it was not such a reach to believe that in this horrible time, that's how they coped.
And it was so important for us that we see Anne outside. So we were originally going to only do 7 episodes, and then we told Nat Geo, I think we need an episode where we get to show Anne before they went into hiding, the light, you know, her light, her life. And so, you know, we just kept sort of developing the story, and we wanted to see the spark and the joy.
So Ashley, as a young actress, stepping into a role that is notably one of the most serious events in our history, how did you approach that and how did you prepare?
Well, I knew that there was a gravity and a weight when it came to preparing for this project. First of all, my grandma is a Holocaust survivor herself, so I had a family relation, and that made it even more like I wanted to do this story justice. I would say that there is so much significance and importance to this story. For Margot in particular, I really loved how Meep did not hesitate to say yes and to bring her to the hiding place when she got and received a work camp call-up. And I remember that there's so much out on Anne Frank's story. There really isn't anything like A Small Light. And when I read through the scripts, I could see how there's this modern side. You really feel like you're in present day. And so I would say that this story feels so important, so timely, and as a young actress, it's stories like these that I love and feel honored to be a part of.
So as an 18-year-old actress, stepping into this serious role, how did you prepare for this role?
Well, took some preparing to do. I really focused on her diary, of course. I decided very, very, very early on when I first got the role that I wouldn't look at any other interpretation of Anne that other actresses have done. And I also decided not to read Meep's autobiography because I wanted to stay true to Anne. And I didn't want to be swayed by thinking, in a scene, what would this actress do? Or in a scene, oh, Meep thought Anne might do this. You know, I wanted it to be what Anne would do and how Anne thinks. So for me, I took her diary as like a manuscript. I read it so many times, I audiobooked it, and I got my mum to read it to me as well. So I had 3 different versions of it going at once. And I just took it as a template and tried to get into how she thinks, like as much as I could, just trying to think how she thought of people, the relationships that were going on, like what sort of things would trigger her and how would they trigger her. You know, anything like that that was in her diary, I would take, absorb, and just try to add it to her personality and get through it.
quick question. Do you have a cat?
I don't have a cat. However, I'm a cat person, so it was great to work with some cats, and some of my family on both sides have cats, so I'm surrounded by them.
So, Bill, how did you mentally prepare for this amazing role?
It's obviously a big responsibility taking on a role like this, and also just taking on a role about this part of history. So I couldn't get like too overwhelmed, because otherwise it like drives you into the ground. So I basically read Meep's book many times. She wrote an autobiography, and Frank remembered, and that was kind of my main source that was really helpful.